I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here with Andrea Hylen to talk about her article in the March-April issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Andrea, before we start that discussion, tell our viewers a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, time is wild, huh? January, February, what month is it?
What year
March.
is it, right?
Right, we're already here. So for anyone who doesn't know me, I would say I define myself most as a life scientist, someone who uses creativity and life experiences to be fully present in life with what is happening. And for anyone who wants another definition, I am the founder of Heal My Voice. I've worked with hundreds of men and women to write stories around trauma, loss, and grief. And I am a writer, founder of the Incubator, and finally, I am an ancestral lineage healing practitioner. So there's a couple of titles and identities to get us started.
And you can find out more about Andrea and her work at andreahylen.com, and that is also in the text of this video. So, Andrea, you've been writing a series of articles for On Purpose Woman magazine on conscious self-evolution. What inspired you to write about conscious self-evolution?
I have a friend, Lucky Sweeney, who first really turned me on to the work of Barbara Marx Hubbard. And there was something about listening to Barbara talk about conscious self-evolution back in 2005 was just a memorable time. I had listened to her before that, but I'd say 2005. And it brought into my awareness how we could participate in our lives more fully by bringing awareness to what was happening within and around us, and to get off the kind of hamster wheel of what's the next thing I'm supposed to be doing in my life, but actually being conscious to the clues that are around us all the time, the desires that we have, and being more aware of what doors are opening, what doors am I standing in front of and just like trying to force open, but just surrendering to the process of I am a there's the Andrea who is in a physical body walking through the world, and then there is the Andrea who is connected to a higher consciousness and came here for something that I don't even need to have words for. It's just that there's a way of living in the world that is more being present and flowing with what is here. Yeah.
I love that. And I've really enjoyed every article that you've written. And this morning when I was preparing for this, I was thinking, why haven't I bought that book that Barbara wrote that you were pulling these codes from? Because there's a lot more in that
Oh,
book
yeah.
and what you're able to write about here. So
52,
2
52
codes,
codes. Yeah.
yes. And she was such a pioneer in that, wasn't she?
Hmm.
He was talking about that early on, way earlier than 2005, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, her awakening came in the 1950s.
Yeah, wow.
And at that time, she was a mother of 5 children. And she absolutely was a creative being. And she was taking a walk in the woods, and she just had a download about creation and how we would come into different cycles where it would look like things were falling apart as a bad thing, but actually things that fall apart are preparing for something new to be birthed.
Mhm.
And you really can look at the process of pregnancy and giving birth to a child. It is messy. It is, I mean, once in a while, I've heard a woman say she had no pain during childbirth, and most of us do have pain during childbirth. And then there's this beautiful creation that comes, and we go on a journey with that creation. So, yeah. And we can certainly see now how things are falling apart in the world. And part of that is questioning our education system, our government systems, the financial world, and even our gender.
Mhm.
Like there's so many things that are being questioned with new information and people sharing things that maybe hadn't been shared before, sharing what it's really like to be in their bodies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's such a beautiful way to put it. And so in the series of articles you've been picking out, I'm assuming they're the codes that really resonate with you the most, or is that?
Yes. Well, and I started out with the article, Are You an Evolutionary Woman? And just
Mhm.
talked a little bit about my own awakening at evolutionary women retreats. And then I chose 9 codes. And I always question when I get to the next code if that's the one I want to speak about and write about. So I've tweaked it a little bit along.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely there are my favorites. Hmm.
Well, in this current issue, you write about Code 33, which is come forward as a new norm. And this is the 7th article in your series. And I have to say, I found aspects of this code quite fascinating. You write, as we embrace conscious self-evolution, we might begin to see ourselves as exceptional or special. You use an example with your grandson as a way of illustrating this idea. Would you share that story?
Well, I have yeah, I have an acceleration of grandchildren all of a sudden. My oldest granddaughter is 10, and so I've been playing around with her for as a grandmother for a while. And then I have Cooper, who's almost 2 now. And then my daughter Mary had a baby, Seamus, so her kids are 10 years apart. And then there's another one on the way. So I'll just presence that there's a little girl who's coming in July. So I've been immersed a little bit more in this world of grandchildren. And I lived with my daughter and my grandson and her husband for about 4 or 5 months. And in that amount of time, like that first year of development, children change so much. And of course, here we are, 3 adults in the household, living our lives, all of us working, and just like watching him, oh, is he going to roll over? How can we, all of us on the floor, cheering him on for
Mhm.
this thing. And although there were moments of delight that I've seen him have about things, even this morning, I was on FaceTime with him. And I noticed how he's gone from somebody puts the blocks on top and he knocks them off to building it himself. And so today he had 2 blocks and he stood back and he was like, oh, wow, like this is so amazing. And he came back, put the 3rd block on. Wow, this is so amazing. And that's a natural part of our development throughout life is that we have these moments where it's like, whoa, I had that thought and this thing appeared, how magical I am, how powerful I am. But then there's the point where, when Cooper walks through the house, he just walks through the house. He doesn't go, look, I took another step. Look how amazing I am. No, it's that he can walk.
Yeah.
So he walks through the
His
house.
ego hasn't, he doesn't have the
Right. There's
ego to do
no
that yet,
ego
right?
thing. Well, and the thing that I want to say, because I really was talking about ego in that whole thing of not being exceptional and it becoming a norm, is that first of all, our egos are important.
Yeah.
And I know that one of the things, maybe you were going to bring it up, and I'll just slide into it now, is that to make friends with our ego. Sometimes what I'll feel like is that when I'm in a place of uncertainty about something, that I'll say, oh, I'm giving my ego something to do with the mind. Let the mind, like, here, ego, think about this question, or here, ego, I'll read this paragraph in the magazine, give you that to go on. Well, this other part of me is expanding into some other possibilities, wanting to open, because our ego can actually be you're better than those people, can
Mhm.
give you that message. And your ego can say, you're not as good as those people. So it's not like ego is always saying the better than. Sometimes the ego is telling us you are less than. And so I have made friends with my ego to feed it some information to
Keep it busy, right?
keep it busy, keep my ego busy, because there is a, ego also helps us to identify something.
Mhm.
Even in the opening, I was putting words to who am I?
Right.
A life scientist, founder of Heal My Voice in the Incubator. Like those are things that ego likes. Ego likes some definition. So it's make friends with your ego. Yeah.
Well, you wrote that as you fine tune your intuition, as you fine tuned your intuition, you learned that it's a superpower that we can all cultivate, and that you didn't think of yourself as superior until you had conversations with people who had no idea what you were talking about and weren't even curious enough to engage with the possibilities. You said you had some ego trips throughout that, and for a short time felt superior, like you were more aware and evolved than the people around you. I have to tell you, I laughed out loud when I read that because I've experienced that feeling of getting it. I got it.
Mhm.
Those people over there, they don't get it. And
Right.
I know for me, it's I remember, I've seen Wayne Dyer. I saw him speak a number of times, and I remember he talked one time about he was in India and he was actually learning to levitate with the yogis. He said they
Mhm.
would have these, I mean, wasn't able to do this, but they would have these like races almost where they would levitate and move, and he realized one day that he had actually lifted up off the floor, and he goes, "Oh, wow, look what I'm doing. I can go on the Tonight Show now." And he went, you know,
Right.
because his ego just stepped right in and went, "Ooh," instead of being like with one in the awe of what he was experiencing, he was looking at, "Oh, how can I use this to my advantage?" And so I think it's a human condition, isn't it, that that's what we do. But what snapped you out of that way of thinking, if you will?
Well, I think there have just been times where it's interesting your description of Wayne Dyer. It's like he's levitating and then he gets all into the like, oh, this is so cool, and, da, 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 and it's like
So
boom,
special.
back down. And I feel like it's the moments where I have, felt like I've got it or I'm superior and nobody else gets this around me, is that then come crashing back down. And I mean, I think one of the big ones was that, you know, I, I would say for the listeners, we've all had experiences like this. So I'm just going to share like my experience that I had a series of things happen where my husband died in 2005 after a year of fighting cancer. And that death cracked me open in a sense. And really it was like kind of a 2 year process of grief and getting my life clearing up things around his life. He had a business, he had a lot of stuff, he had a lot of projects, things that I worked on, but it was cracking me open. And it was, I did a lot of spiritual work during that time, a lot of, I'd get up early in the morning for a couple of hours and read and meditate. And like I was in this space of cultivating something inside of me, and then started following my intuition more, which led to, if you've read any of the other articles, Jonas Brothers concerts with my daughter, which were just the form of getting us out of the house, getting us into a different form of tuning in to our intuition. And then I reached a point where I kind of assumed that everyone around me, all my friends, family, must be having their own awakenings. And we all go through cycles, different cycles. But I started to talk about this. Uh, I did a video series called Open to Inspiration, and I would talk with friends about it. Well, I'm talking, and they'd say, "What do you mean open to inspiration?" And I'd say, "Well, you're listening to your intuition. So you have a space of listening, and then you know where to take action." And I had like gazed blank spaces looking at me, and I thought, "What's going on? Am I not communicating this correctly because we'd been in spiritual groups together. So I'm thinking everybody. And then I just started feeling like, well, I have got the answer to the universe, and no one else has awakened in my field, in my peer group. And then my daughter and I followed our intuition, and I had sold our house. We moved to California. We were kind of opening to what's next. And the answers didn't just come,
Mm.
but then sometimes it'd be like, okay, we've been here. I'd follow a little intuition. We were staying in, uh, I don't even know that they had Airbnbs at that time, but we'd go stay at a youth hostel, we'd stay at a hotel, we'd sublet an apartment, like we're following our intuition and trying to figure out where are we going to live in California. And then the money ran out. And I didn't have the answers. And my daughter and I are both trying to figure out work. And I'd started an online business, but there weren't answers at that point. And I feel like that really woke me up to the cycles of the ebb and flow. That there are times where we're actually having experiences that I would say take us to our knees,
Mhm.
and something else is happening. Something else is being cultivated during that time. And yeah, a lot of humility I mean, those moments where our humility and um, our imperfectness um, of being human. It's not like there's just always the information of the next step. No, we have experiences that are, yeah, bring us to the humility point. And so I just always remember that, And it's interesting too, because when you've had those kinds of moments where you've really been brought to your knees, you'll hear other people talk about it in the world, and you'll begin to see that that actually is part of the normal cycle, is to come into that. And I think it is how we cultivate humility and also become friends with our ego
Mhm.
and realize that the ego sometimes is just off the charts, saying you're better than, you're less than, and that you learn how to navigate that too. Yeah.
Wow. Let's
Mhm.
see. What can I say after that?
Mhm.
Uh, you said it brought you more in touch with something. I was
Mhm.
in it, but I was wondering if it also had you embracing more empathy, if you were able to feel more empathy for others
Absolutely.
because
It's
you saw
funny because
that.
that's
Yeah.
actually what I was thinking. And so that preparation, where it was maybe 6 months later. So during that 6 months of us like living on the edge of like, okay, there's enough money to pay the rent, but there's not as much for, okay, there's something else coming in a few days. That means we can get more food in the refrigerator. How do we navigate the next few days? It's like, um, yeah, survival. And uh, I wrote 70 articles about grief transformation. So it really helped me get in touch with grief at another level in the everyday grief, disappointments, change. It led me to do 44 radio shows around grief transformation, which I'd never had a radio show before, but I started Blog Talk Radio, and um, I'd done some shows with Catherine actually, that we had a show called Living on the Edge.
Hmm.
So during that time, talking about what it was like to live on the edge and change. And then I did the 44 radio shows. And after that, I was walking one day and heard the words heal my voice. And so it feels like that experience opened up my heart to to really be able to identify with stories that women would be writing in Heal My Voice. And so when a woman would come to me and say, well, you don't understand what these different, pains that I've gone through. There was a point where I would say, well, actually, I do know that one, and I've had that one. And yeah, I had the loss of a son. I had a chronic illness. I have lived on the edge of eviction. Yeah, actually. And it became just a bridge
Mm.
of understanding. And then I started saying to universal intelligence, okay, I've had enough experiences that I can relate to what women are saying, and I don't need to keep having the extremes. So anyway,
That
yeah.
sounds like the universe listened, 'cause-
Yes, the universe
and
listened.
taken a lot of action to help that along.
Yeah.
I'm so appreciate you talking about your experience and, your less than perfect
Mhm.
way of being in the world, because it's so easy for others to look at someone like you. And, because you speak a lot at the on purpose meetings, but even when you're there as a 5-minute featured member, women can be in awe of you, Andrea. They're like, oh, I like lean in when Andrea
Mhm.
speaks. And
Aw.
they may go, she's got it all together. She's like, yeah, and you
Mm.
do.
Sure.
And
On some level, yes.
right.
Mhm.
And we can have both, and as a friend of mine
Yeah.
is want to say. But I think you're talking about it gives other women permission to have some grace around it when it
Mhm.
happens with them, when they realize that they, because I remember having those moments when I thought and it was in a painful time. I thought I had healed that. I was so sure I had healed that. Why is it coming up again? Because
Sure.
it was healed at a certain level, but
Yeah.
it has to be healed at all the levels. Or the bigger the issue, it'll pop back in again because it's not complete, it's not gone.
Mhm.
And so I just appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing your life like that, because I think it does would help some women go, okay, yes, you know, nobody ever gets it. Nobody ever, we don't live here long enough to, to learn everything we need to learn.
Oh,
That's why
right.
I believe our souls come back a few
Mhm.
times.
I do too.
And so what I love that you wrote in the article, and I don't know if you said it exactly this way, but I added everything in nature grows at a different rate, including
Hmm.
us, right? So that's what you came to, that
Yeah,
everyone is growing at a different rate.
definitely.
You used vegetables and how some vegetables come up early and some are more dormant for a while. Well, so are people, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. You want to say anything more
And
about
there's
that?
more, I mean, there's more for us, if there were a couple of things that I would just say have become touchstones that have really helped me in my life. And number one is acceptance of what is happening around you right now. And I feel like I first deeply sunk into that when I was pregnant with my third child and found out that he had something wrong with his heart, that they'd found something on a sonogram, and that I went from yelling at the universe to why this and haven't I been through enough to a place of this is what is happening. I cannot control this. So how am I going to navigate the waters? I cannot control the storm, but what can okay, I've got my life jacket on, I've got my oars, I've got my people around me. And for me, it became cross-stitching angels. So it's like what that thing is that helps us kind of accept what is happening. So that's the first piece. And then it's funny, now I forget what the second piece was that I was going to share. Uh yeah, just up and out. So maybe that's what was most important for me to say,
Mhm.
is actually this place of getting to acceptance of what is happening. And then recognize, I guess the other thing is that I hope my plan is to keep learning and growing and seeing places that I can change and improve myself until I take my last breath.
Mhm.
And because I believe that I'm coming back, sometimes I think, oh, what other skills do I want to learn? Because that becomes a part of my soul, whatever, like feeling like there are natural gifts, talents, and skills that we develop. And, I think, oh, I want to learn a couple languages, and oh, I want to take that class on weaving. Oh, maybe I'll take a chemistry course. I've always been interested in anyway, it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
being alive is to continue to grow. Oh, what's the woman's name who just died at 102? Iris.
Iris Evril, something like,
Yeah,
um,
Apfel or
yeah, I think that's close.
Apfel, Apfel. Yeah, is like it just, she's such a, she just died recently, but she was such an example of keep learning, keep growing. And for her, it was in the limelight. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be in the limelight. It can be in, your home that you're going
She
to keep.
stepped into the limelight, what, in her 80s?
Yeah,
She became a fashion icon in her 80s, and she lived
she
to
did.
102.
Yeah.
Still dressing, still wearing her famous glasses. Yeah, she
Yep.
was amazing,
Being herself.
being herself. Yeah,
Yeah.
didn't matter what people out there were judging her for. And
Yeah.
so, yes,
But
yes,
the
I'm with
the
you
other
on that
thing
one.
that's coming to me, Jenny, that I just want to share is that in the acceptance, it's not about like I encourage you to keep having your vision boards, keep having what it is that you're dreaming about, and be aware of what's actually happening now. And so, maybe there's a house that you want or you think you want. It's okay to have those dreams. It's okay to keep those visions going and be in the present of what is actually presenting in front of you where you can learn and grow
Mhm.
from it. And to take that, because that has been like the number one key for me in um, navigating the rough waters that come, and then still being able to be happy,
Mhm.
be joy filled.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you saying, Andrea, that sometimes we get so zoomed in on that one thing, that car, maybe a specific color, it's got to look like this, which is a good thing. I believe in manifesting, but we might miss that. I'm dumbing it down just a little bit here. We might
Sure.
miss that green car over here that somebody's presenting to us,
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
And so we've got all these great things happening here, but because it's not like we thought it was supposed to look like,
Right.
they
I,
miss it.
I will tell you, my life does not look at all like what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe the listeners are out there like, my life looks exactly the way I planned it. And well, then that's your journey. Mine does not at all. And I feel like when we talk about happiness and joy, part of the reason that people don't experience happiness and joy is because they think their life is supposed to be something other than what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how can our viewers find out more about you?
Well, go to andreahylen.com, and also I'll just have an invitation. I have a new Facebook group that is open to everyone. It's called the Incubator. It is a free creativity community. I just opened it last month, and I'm in the place of beginning to offer some ideas and a way to connect there. I mean, I have no idea where it will go or what will come from it. I really started it because I have a paid program once a year, the Incubator, where women can come and work on creativity projects, books, blogs, songs, photography, and themselves. And I wanted a bridge between the ending of that in February and the beginning of it again in October. So I wanted a bridge, and I'm opening it to other people to get a taste of kind of what we do behind the scenes.
Mhm.
So come on over to Facebook, the Incubator, a free creativity community.
I will put that link in as soon as we
Great.
get off of this call so everybody can have that along with your website, which is out there already. So Andrea, you've given me so much. You've given us all so much, but do you have any final words that you'd like to leave us with?
Mm. You know, for this step, come forward as a new norm, not as superior or exceptional. I would say that practice tuning in. I had in the article a couple of suggestions. One is to breathe into the center of your heart. And so take some time. It doesn't have to be even a 5 minute, 15 minute, or hour-long practice. It can be just a moment where you just pause, you breathe into your heart, you feel a connection to your inner world, and remind yourself that the magic you are seeing in what you are creating is normal. And just pause and just take that moment. It can be before you get on a Zoom call, it can be after you're on the Zoom call, it can be while you're cooking. Just pause and connect with your heart and know that the answers are within you.
Mm, I love it. Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks.
Ah, let me just say how much I appreciate your friendship, your expertise, your wisdom, your life science that you bring to all of us, because you're such a wonderful example of just living your life the way you want to live your life.
Mm.
I mean, there's just not enough words for me to say. So I appreciate you in my life. Thank you so much. And what is
Thanks.
your next article in the May, June issue? Do you remember? Okay, if
I,
you don't, it's okay because they'll just have to pick up the magazine.
normally I have it in front of me, and for some reason, maybe it's that I'm tuning in to what would be what is the next step right now. And part of that is what's in me, and also what am I seeing in the world that would
Mhm.
be most special. So stay tuned, everyone. And Jenny, I want to thank you for the opportunity to write articles for On Purpose Woman. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak about it a little bit more on these writers' chats, and as a way to share what is the normal that's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
And thanks to the listeners for being here.
Yes. Yes, thank you all for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. And for more information on the On Purpose Women Global Community and magazine, please go to my website, opwgc.com. That link is also in the text of this video. For more interviews with amazing women living their lives on purpose, check out our YouTube channel, which is also in the text of this video. Thanks again.